Hello and welcome to another wrap-up. So April was not as good of a reading month compared to the previous month so far. I only read 7 books and I DNF'd 1. For once I didn't read 35 different manga, I only read 1. I read 4 fantasy books, a non-fiction, which is the first time in my life I ever read one, and a sci-fi book. As for star rating, I had a bunch of lower ratings, a 1.5, a couple 2.5 or 2. I had one 4.5. Basically a lot of like middle zone and bad ones, and then one good book. So the first book that I read was Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is a sci-fi book about time traveling, kind of. This woman creates a chair that is able to teleport you back in time through memories. She's trying to actually cure like Alzheimer's, but ends up accidentally making a time machine. I gave this a 1.5. I have discovered that I hate time traveling books. I don't know what it is, but books like this just infuriate me. I don't want to spoil this in case any of you watching actually want to read this. So I don't know how to explain what it is without spoiling, because clearly I'm not good at words. But it's just done in a way that I don't like. I think it's just I don't like time traveling books, which is what I said. And also I did not connect to the characters. None of them were any kind of remotely interesting. It was just bad in my opinion. I just did not like it. I will most likely give it to my friend who will possibly like it, because he did like Dark Matter, I think. Yeah, Dark Matter by the same author, so I'm gonna give this to him so he can maybe enjoy this. The next book that I read was a book from NetGalley that is called Bewitched by Thalassa, I think. And it follows this girl I have forgotten the name of. She's a witch and she really wants to be part of this like coven, but in order to be accepted she needs to complete a major quest and have a familiar, which she does not have. So one day when she's trying to go on a quest on a plane, she's going somewhere, the plane starts being pulled down by another force, another magic of some sort that's calling to her and trying to pull her down. She ends up saving the plane from crashing, but it does go down, and there in the middle of a jungle she discovers Memnon the Cursed, which is in this tomb that's been sealed for years. And she awakes him from his eternal sleep, and he thinks that she is his long-lost wife that betrayed him. And so that's the plot. I ended up giving this a 2-star. I'm not gonna lie, I just read it for the spice. And it wasn't that good, spice-wise, so I don't recommend it for that. The main character, which I've forgotten the name of, she's very boring, and her whole character revolves around not remembering, which is also annoying to me. And also, she is always gaslighted by Memnon, and she's stupid to not understand that she's being gaslit. Because Memnon is the biggest red flag ever. He is toxic, and not in a good way. He's extremely possessive, almost killed somebody because of it. All types of... And also, the plot was kind of boring. I don't know, it was just there. I only asked for the book because I'd recognized the name of the author from TikTok, which probably was not a good idea. But I did read it, and I read it. I wouldn't personally recommend it. That's all I'm saying. The next book that I read was Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. I still don't know. This is a Snow White retelling, but with a twist. We follow 2 characters, Mina and Lynette. For the sake of the retelling, Lynette is Snow White and Mina is the evil stepmother. Mina, as a child, had a heart problem, so her magician wizard father switched out her heart for a heart made of glass, which meant that she could never love somebody. She could have any other emotion except love. And at the same time, we have Lynette, who is the princess of this kingdom, and she is actually not born from a woman. She was created by Mina's father out of snow because the queen died of a sickness they couldn't treat. So we follow Mina and Lynette having a good relationship as stepmother and stepdaughter. But one day when Lynette's about to turn 16, her father decides that he's gonna give the kingdom to her early, I guess, and make her queen. And so then Mina, who's really protective over a part of the kingdom that she considered hers, which is the southern part of the kingdom, she starts getting resentful of Lynette, and then a lot of stuff happened. I hope that explains the story without spoiling. I give this a 4.5. It was so good. It wasn't excellent, it wasn't my new favorite, but it was so good. So thank you so much to my friend for recommending this, because thank you. This was such a cool take on the Snow White fairy tale, and I love when retellings aren't copy-paste of the original story. This has its own story to it. A lot of the Snow White aspects were changed or modified, and they were really interesting to me, like the mirror. This also has a tiny second plotline of a sapphic romance. So if you like that, recommend this. It's not the focus of the story. The focus is the relationship between stepmother and stepdaughter, but it was so good. Super fun to read. Great retelling, and I'm obsessed with retelling, so that says a lot. Great characters, just enjoyable in general, really good. The next book that I read was Becoming by Michelle Obama, which is the first and probably only nonfiction book I've read in my life. It's probably obvious, but this is a memoir about Michelle Obama's life up until when they stopped being president and first lady. Here's the thing, I gave it a 3.5. It's not a bad book. I really enjoyed the first part of the book, which is about like that. I don't even know, kind of less. This much. The first part, which is Becoming Me, which is about her childhood and her starting to go to college and then working, and then in the kind of the second part when she meets Barack Obama and stuff like that. That was interesting to me. I fully cried when her dad passed away. That I sobbed, and I don't really know why. I put some post-its on my favorite moments, which were when her dad passed away. That's not favorite, it's just that I cried. I had to write that down. And then the two instances where they were talking with the Queen of England, they were entertaining to me. And then the two moments where Barack Obama had Riz. Basically, I knew going into this that it was going to be about politics, and just to give a backstory of my life, I don't care that much about politics in general, much less about American, US politics. So I already knew that this probably wasn't going to be for me. So when it started being about politics, I just did not care as much. The beginning was great, and then the last part I got really bored. That's why it's a 3.5. I hope that makes sense. It's just because I don't care about politics, and I don't really care about memoirs and nonfiction. If you like reading memoirs and nonfiction, this is probably amazing, but I just personally prefer fiction. The next book that I read was Ever the Brave by Erin Summerill, which is the second book of the, I think it's Clash of Kingdoms series. The first book is Ever the Hunted. In the first book, we follow Britta and Cohen. Britta's dad has been murdered and they don't know who did it. And so one day she's being charged for a crime of, I think it's poaching. The person like acting as king while the king can't be king. I don't know, I think it's regent something. He makes a deal with her that is, if she finds Cohen, who they suspect is the killer, the one that killed her dad, they will let her go and forgive her and give her her dad's house. So yeah, that's the plot of the first book, and this continues that. I only read this because I found this book for cheap and I didn't mind the writing in the first one. I ended up giving this a 2.5. It was just not it. This book has a love triangle, which is not good because I was shipping her with the one she does not end up with. And also, the characters in this are very boring and basic, and basically not developed at all. The plot was very predictable as well. I would personally not recommend this series. It was just meh, I guess. Next is a book that I did not read. I DNF'd, and I'm really sad about it. And it is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This was a 5-star prediction. How wrong can I be? I just could not deal with the writing style. It's kind of reminding me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I hated that book, mostly because of its really confusing writing style, which is the same thing in this. The writing and the like... For example, I read 120 pages of this, 25, excuse me, 125, and I could summarize the plot into 3 sentences. What was the point of this? It's over... I don't know how to say it in English. In Portuguese we call it baile, which is like when you write an essay you put baile in it. So you like make up words and sentences to make it longer and fit the like number of words you need to have in an essay. This is what that is giving. It's like they tried to shove in as many sentences that mean nothing, but also have to somehow mean something. I can't with this. I unfortunately was really wrong about my prediction. The next book that I read was The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. This is about a group of people who, on a daily basis, kind of, do heists. It's not commit heists. Attempt heists? No. They steal stuff. So one day they end up stealing an artifact that belongs to the Order of Babel, which is the like, not government, but basically one of the patriarchs of the Order of Babel finds out that they stole from him, and he makes a deal, which is that if they help him steal something else, he will give one of the main characters, which is called Severin, I think, the right to be another patriarch because his like inheritance of one of the houses was stolen from him. That's the plot of the book. It's about a big heist of a thing, or a bunch of heists, I guess. People have compared this to Six of Crows because it does sound very similar and it is kind of the same concept, but I think it's different enough to be its own book. However, I did give this a 3, I'm thinking right now. It had amazing potential. I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series because there are 2 other books. Maybe if I find them for cheap, but right now I'm not really interested. We follow 6 different characters. They're all really interesting and have their own like backstories and are developed and have great potential. The plot is just very predictable and boring, and also the romance was predictable and is annoying me. And I think there's a love triangle happening in the next book. Yeah, that's basically it. And the last book that I read in April was a manga, which is the 4th volume of the My Little Monster series by Robico. I give this one again a 3.5 because it's literally the same as the show, so I got nothing from it. And yeah, that's moral of the story. That's my review. So these were all of the books that I read in April. Not as great as usual, but also I feel like I read more physical books, so maybe it is great, but I don't actually know. Because I think the maximum physical books that I've read so far in a month is 5, and this is clearly 5. But if you count the DNF, that's 6. So technically it's not that bad. Even though it's not as much as usual, I'm kind of proud of myself for reading them because I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of in a maybe potential slump and I forced myself to read a lot of them, especially the nonfiction book and Recursion. But that is everything for today, and I'll see you in my next word video. Bye!